Happy birthday, Drew.
Thanks, Paul.
How was your day?
It is my birthday.
It is your birthday.
Yeah, it's been a pretty relaxing day.
Good.
I went to the gym, had a nice time. Then my parents were in town, and I took a nice long nap with my dog, and then we went to dinner, and I've just been kind of relaxing ever since.
Yeah. So, how does it feel to be 40?
I don't know, man. Like, I know age is just a number and all that jazz, but it definitely feels weird to say that, yeah, I'm 40 now. Because it doesn't seem all that long ago that I was in my 20s. And I don't know if that just means, like, time is moving faster for me or what. But it's just weird to say I'm 40.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of felt the same way when I turned 40, but, yeah, it's just a number. Age is how you feel, I guess. That's what they tell me. I don't know. I feel old, so.
I definitely, it's weird. Like, I definitely feel a little old. I feel a little old. And it sounds weird because, like, I know a lot of other people that are my age that I can point to and say that, yeah, I'm in better shape than them, or I'm a little more active than they are. But part of me does feel like I'm slowing down. I can't do a lot of the things that I did in my early 30s that I just can't do them anymore. I don't know. Like, I can't stay up as late as I used to. I can't work out as hard as I used to, which I feel like maybe I need to work out more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the body does get old and wear out, but I mean, yeah, you can still be healthy in 40. Says the chubby guy on the other end of the microphone. So,
speaking of chubby, I'll tell you what, man. This whole holiday vacation, my diet has been absolute crap.
Me too,
I had
buddy.
a good friend of mine send me a little holiday care package with some caramels and some peanut butter stuff along, and I ate those. And then my wife made cookies, and we had the big birthday celebration last night, which we should talk about. Mm-hmm. And I've just been eating like crap. And then I had Mexican for lunch, and then like a whole bunch of steak for dinner. So yeah, I am very full. I'm very full tonight.
Yeah, I've been eating like crap for the last week. Just pure hot garbage.
Yeah, I'll be anxious to get back on my routine next week for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that next week. I'm still going to be home, and we've been accumulating sweets and tasty treats and baking cookies, and I have absolutely no willpower. So, yeah, yeah.
So you're still off next week, or?
Yeah, I'm off until in the first week of January. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually start working again on Monday, and I am not looking forward to that because I've had a nice week off. It has been good to take some time off.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this week off, but I'm already kind of feeling a little restless, and I feel like I need to get back into my routine. But I had a lot of PTO. Like, I'm so bad at taking vacation. I'm so bad at it. I just generally don't. And I've accrued just a metric crap ton over the years. And I'm at the point now where if I don't start using it, I'm going to start losing it. So I decided to take 2 weeks off around the holidays. And that's a lot for me. A week is a lot for me. So, yeah. I'm kind of getting stir crazy.
But it's been good though, right? Like you've had fun on your time off.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've enjoyed my time off. I'm kind of dreading the fact that I have another week off. But what are you going to do?
So what do you have on the tap for next week?
I have no idea, none. And the funny thing is that like I kind of planned like gonna get caught up on watching some shows I've been wanting to watch, and I literally sat on my butt and just like binged everything today. So,
okay. So what are you watching?
Well, today I watched the entire 8th season of Letterkenny.
I was just gonna say we noticed that the 8th season of Letterkenny is now available on Hulu.
Yes, and I've watched all 7 episodes.
Wow. And can you give me any previews?
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really good. I mean, it's they've set the bar high and they continue to just, meet their high expectations every time. It's good. Good storylines, good wordplay, good puns. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of segues nicely into the birthday party that you attended last night.
Yes.
So my wife and I were very big Letterkenny fans, and I introduced my wife to it. I was about halfway through season 4, and then I introduced my wife to the show, and then she just binged the entire season over the course of a few weeks. And she's obviously a big fan of the show. So there were several, there weren't several, but there was one gift in particular that I got for Christmas that was tied to the show. And then the birthday party last night was very, very Letterkenny themed. So for those of you that don't watch the show, I think it's in season 1 or season 2. I think it's season 1.
I think it's season 1, yes.
I think it's season 1. So if you haven't watched Letterkenny yet, you should, number 1. And number 2, you will see this very early on in the seasons. There is a character in the show that is a friend of kind of one of the main characters, and every year they throw him what they call the softest birthday party ever. Mm-hmm. So he is a grown man, and they throw basically what amounts to a 4-year-old girl's birthday party for him.
Yes,
like ponies and pink stuff,
tiaras,
and
cupcakes,
tiaras, right?
Cotton candy. Yep.
So I think I might have made mention last show that my wife was having some people over for my birthday, which was yesterday, which is Friday yesterday. We're recording this on a Saturday. And she would not tell me the theme of the party. And I have known that this party was coming up. And she was shocked that I couldn't guess the theme. But I was completely clueless. And you knew the theme ahead of time.
I did.
Which makes me a little bit angry.
She wanted you to have the full experience of a super soft birthday party.
Yeah, so that was the theme of the party. It was a soft birthday party. So when I got home from the gym yesterday and showered, I just went downstairs. She said she wanted to decorate. She wanted it to be a surprise. I walked upstairs to, I don't even know how to describe what I was seeing when I walked upstairs. It was the softest birthday party. There were pink cupcakes with unicorn stickers. There were unicorn plates and napkins. There were unicorn gummy snacks, and there was a big banner in the living room that said "World's Softest Birthday." It was fun. I had a Peppa Pig badge, which I'm a big fan of. It was a really unique birthday experience, and everybody had little headbands and things. And there was about 7 or 8 of us there. A lot of good friends came, including Paul, and we played some games. So
we sure did.
Any general comments about the party before we talk about some of these games?
It was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to come. The cupcakes were terrific. The decorations were spot on. And we played some pretty good board games.
Yeah, so we all got to play some games that we hadn't played ever before. Mm-hmm. So we started things off last night with a little gem of a game called Six Nimmt. And it is a trick-taking game where the idea is to not take any tricks. It's basically everybody gets a hand of 10 cards, and there's 4 rows of cards on the table, and you have to play a card and see what row it fits in. And the catch is that if you put the 6th card in the row, you have to take all the cards. So there's a little bit of, what card do you play when, and what row does it go into, and then do you take all the cards? And people really got into it to the point where we were actively cheering or swearing out loud at some of the plays, which I think by any measure makes a successful board game if you have people actively cheering at a table.
Yeah, what I enjoyed about it so much was, like, the highs and lows were so good. And, like, you pick a card to play, and you think it was just a perfect card, and then everyone else reveals later, and you realize you've made a horrible mistake, and everybody laughs, and then you feel like, wow, I had a really bad hand. But then, like, 5 seconds later, you're playing another hand, and it goes really well. So, like, the pace of the game was just so fast that, like, mistakes were just forgotten, and you're just worried about the next hand. And it was really good.
Oh boy,
it was so good.
Oh boy, yeah. There were a few hands, especially me in particular, where I think there was one round where I took 40 points, which
that's bad.
To put that in perspective, the game ends when somebody hits 66 total. So like in one hand, I went from like 12 to like 50 something. So yeah, the fortunes can swing really, really wildly in that game. So it's a relatively cheap game. You can find it on Amazon. We'll put a link in the show notes. Watch some YouTube videos on it. If if you got a decent sized group of people, because it can play up to 10, it's really, really good. Highly recommend. And then, Paul, you brought a game over that I had not played before that I'm going to go ahead and call a new twist on a recent classic. So tell us about Wereworld.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Werewords. So it is a twist on the secret role game Werewolf. But the notion is someone picks a secret word. The villagers are trying to guess it. The werewolves are trying to figure out who the seer is, and the seer is someone on the villagers' side who knows the word, so they're trying to guide the villagers to guess the word, but not being so obvious. Again, it's a really fast-paced game. I think a round takes from like the time you're shuffling and you started, it takes about like 5 minutes. It's high energy, fast-paced. It's a very interesting twist on the hidden role game that I enjoyed very much when I played it before, and then I immediately had to rush out and buy it. And I was hoping that it would hit because, like, I enjoyed playing it a lot, but you never know. You take it to another group of friends, and you're like, I think you all like this game. But we probably played it for a good hour, and considering that each round is like 5 minutes, we played it a lot.
Yeah, we played, I think, at least a dozen rounds of it last night.
Yeah.
And so for those of you that haven't played Werewolf, it's a hidden role game where you get dealt a card that tells you kind of what team you're on. And then you have to kind of play to that team, and your team has a different win condition than the other team. And what makes this so unique is, one, this is an app-enabled game, which typically are kind of hit or miss for me. But this one you absolutely need an app for because you're basically trying to get a team of people to guess or not guess a hidden word. And the words can be easy or the words can be ridiculous.
Yes, which is a level I didn't realize even existed because I've only played medium and hard. And then Drew noticed, well, there's a ridiculous mode. Should we try that? And they were ridiculous.
Yeah, so I was the mayor, which is kind of like the person who
picks the word.
Who picks the word that is going to be used for the round. And like when you're the mayor, you usually get a choice of 3 or 4 words. To put things in perspective, like the hard word we got was raw. And getting a team of people to guess the word raw where they're asking you yes or no questions is actually harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
But the ridiculous word we had was dank meme.
Yeah, and we had narrowed it down to something that happened, something that would happen on a computer that one would use Microsoft Paint for, and then time expired, and we didn't quite get there. But I'm not sure we'd ever get to dank memes.
No.
Because the game is very explicit. They have to guess the word exactly. You can't be close to it. It has to be, we'd have to say, is it dank memes?
Yeah, It was exquisite. It was a great game. It's on my Amazon wish list now. I'm definitely going to be picking that up as well.
It's inexpensive, and it plays like 4 to 20 people if you buy the deluxe version. So, yeah.
It was quite good, and the components were nice, and the app isn't too bad. The voice is a little annoying, but otherwise, pretty good game. We then played a few rounds of Love Letter, which you had not played before.
I had not played that one before. No.
Yeah, so Love Letter is a game that's been around for a while. It's one of those gateway games that I like to introduce people who are, a little newer to board games that are playing, again, another card game where the whole kind of crux of the game is you're trying to be the last person standing in a round, and you either, if you're not the last person standing in a round, you need to have the high cards. So there's a deck of cards that range from 0 to 9, and what you're trying to do is basically survive the round because on your turn, you draw a card, so you'll be holding 2 cards, and then you play one of the cards, and you do what the card says. And usually that is a card that will let you learn something about another player's card that they're currently holding, or a card that will let you protect yourself, or a card that will let you attempt to knock someone out of the game. So we played a few rounds of that. Again, not super hard, just relatively quick to play. Everybody seemed to have a good time doing that, so we played that. And then to cap the night off, we played what is rapidly becoming one of my new favorite games, and that is the game Treasure Island.
Yeah, and I was super excited about that. That is a video, I think, Shut Up and Sit Down did a review of that a while ago, and that's all I knew about it. And I was super excited to play it. It's one of those that I want to play it again. Unfortunately, I was very tired by the time we finished that last round, and I was done for the evening. But like the notion is one person plays Blackbeard or Long John Silver? Blackbeard? I think Blackbeard.
Blackbeard.
Yeah,
Blackbeard.
Famous pirate. And you have this huge map. And Blackbeard secretly decides where he had placed his buried treasure. And then everyone else plays pirates who is moving around this map looking for it. But the big crux of the game is the map is basically a giant dry erase board, and you literally move your piece by drawing a line to where you want to move, and then you search areas by putting down a little plastic circle, drawing a line with your dry erase marker, and then Blackbeard is like, is it in there or not? And he's constantly giving you hints and clues, which may or may not be true. You kind of have to work together with the other pirates, but at the end of the day, only one person wins.
Yeah.
But if you don't kind of at least cooperate a little bit, your chances of finding the treasure goes down. So you have to like share enough information to get something useful, but hide the good information that you have, or just get lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where it starts off as one person who is Blackbeard versus everybody, but only one person can win. So like Paul said, you need to be selective about what you share with the other players versus what you don't. And as Blackbeard, you also have the ability to give false information. It's actually really challenging to play as Blackbeard. I've done it about 3 or 4 times now, and I always seem to make one little mistake, which doesn't necessarily make me lose the game, but there's just a lot that goes into it. But what's really fascinating is the entire board is designed to be written on. So you have these dry erase markers, and you trace lines, and you draw circles, and it's really, really good. Really, really good. I wish it played 6 people, but I think 5 is kind of the sweet spot for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really fun time last night. It was good to see everybody on my birthday eve, I should say.
Yep.
And it was a good time. A couple pieces of follow-up before we get rolling with a couple of the main topics tonight. So I know last show I recorded on a different computer. I am officially back on my main computer. It is working. It is running. It is awesome. Everything seems to be working
good
now. Everything's good. There's still one little issue that I could potentially dig into and make work, which I think is more of a software issue than anything. But everything is working wonderfully on this computer now. It's great. It was a fun project, a lot of messing around, a lot of lessons learned, but everything is working. You got to see it in person. What do you think?
I sure did. Well, so I am not a custom PC kind of guy, but as far as they go, it was really nice. The orange was the seeing the coolant go through and everything was very nice. It was very tastefully lit.
Thank you.
Yes. It looks really impressive. It looks darn near professional. So you should be really proud. Yeah. There's just a couple little things about it that if I were to redo it, I think I will do a little bit differently. But otherwise, I think it turned out super awesome. And then the other piece of follow-up I want to give is last show we exchanged gifts. Paul got me a new Wi-Fi mesh network, and brother, I got to tell you, it's pretty awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I don't necessarily think I had a quote-unquote bad router before, but man, the Wi-Fi speeds in my house have gone through the roof. And I don't know if that is a signal issue or if this is a different band that I didn't have on my other router or what. But previously, like streaming some high quality stuff to my Apple TV, I'd have to dial the quality back a little bit. I've got that cranked now. It doesn't stutter. It doesn't lose signal or anything.
Nice.
Like I've downloaded some pretty large files on my MacBook Pro upstairs wirelessly. And, I've got full house coverage now. I don't have any more dead zones, which is like the main reason I wanted to get this. So now all of my Wi-Fi enabled devices are working perfectly.
Nice.
So, yes, great gift, Paul. Absolutely great gift.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it very much, and it makes me happy to know that there are no more Wi-Fi dead zones in your house.
Thank you.
It's 2019. You should have no Wi-Fi dead zones.
I know, but you've seen my house. My house is very long and slender. Right?
It is. So, every house has their own challenge for getting Wi-Fi to work on. And like a lot of times, like back in the day, I would just buy whatever like Linksys or Netgear Wi-Fi router I could get, and I'd buy the good ones, but it's still at the extremes not work. And yeah, now I have 3 of these radios in my house, 3 Eero devices, and yeah, it's great. I never have to worry about it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it very, very much. And I'll be honest, I was not a big mesh network hype person, but I am now. So if you don't have a mesh network, definitely look into that.
Yeah, if you have if you're in an apartment, don't worry about it. But if you have any kind of like home and you have issues where like, well, if I'm in this one particular room, I only get like my speeds are reduced or I can't quite get a signal, like it's totally worth it.
100%. And the other interesting thing is like my house was built in the early 80s, right? So houses as they're built today are not like houses built in the 80s. So like my house is pretty dense. It's old. It's full of metal and possibly lead. So yeah, like it's just really hard to get a signal from one end of my house to the other. And this new network is working beautifully and it's awesome. Now, that does bring me to an interesting point. So Paul, when you graduated to your new Wi-Fi network, did you name your Wi-Fi network the same name and same password as your previous network?
No.
Okay. When was the last time you've gone through a network name change?
Well, it wouldn't have. It would have been when I put the Eero system in. Yeah, I did change. I did keep or did I not? No, I did. I kept the name the same, but I did change the password, which involved me finding every single device in my house. And yeah.
Okay, so about a day, I think it was like 2 days after we did our big treat exchange, I took the afternoon to basically do just that. So, in my previous network, I actually had a Netgear router before this Orbi system, and Orbi is made by Netgear.
Yes.
So to put things in perspective here, I have not an overly complicated home network, but a relatively, I guess, prosumer setup where I have like my Wi-Fi network for all the crap in our house, like our Kindles and our phones and our iPads and Xboxes and laptops and whatnot. But I've also got the lab network that I have where I have my lab machines and VMs and whatnot, and my Plex server and my NAS. I've got my Raspberry Pi cluster. I've got my domain controller. Like I've got like this other separate network. It's not a separate network, but I've got all these devices already on this network. And to top that off, right, I also use a Pi-hole on my network, which is also my DHCP server. So like everything routes through my Pi-hole. That way I get all the ad filtering and ad blocking and all the spam and stuff gets cut down, whatever. So before I went to set up the new Wi-Fi network, I really thought about this and I thought, okay, I could set this up with the same network name and the same password and everything should work the same. But I thought, well, let's give it a new network name. That way I can physically find all the devices in my house and rejoin everything together.
Not a bad idea. Yeah.
Not a bad idea, right? I knew it wasn't going to be a very fun exercise, but the only things that would be impacted are my Wi-Fi devices. So again, Wi-Fi devices in the house, obviously phones, iPads, laptops, the iMac we have in the spare bedroom. I have a Nest thermostat, I have Nest Protect, I have a Ring doorbell, I have a couple smart plugs, I have a couple smart switches. So like the list got really, really big really, really quickly. So after I unpacked the Orbi and I set up the app, which I'm not a big fan of the app, I'll just come out and say that. I much prefer like the traditional like 192.168.1.1 web interface for all that stuff. So once I got that out of the box and had it all set up, I basically had a problem where the DHCP server on the Orbi and the DHCP server of the Pi-hole were conflicting.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to basically just like rip everything out and just connect like a laptop to the Orbi, like through a hard wire, and connect to it and turn off the DHCP server and then reconnect the Pi-hole. And then like the other interesting thing was, my previous Netgear router, everything was 192.168.2. But the Orbi defaulted to 192.168.1 subnet, so I had to like figure out where that setting was and figure out where the DNS settings were.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there was a lot of little messing around there. Long story short, so I set up a new mesh network, new SSID, new password, new stronger password. So I started going around the house and changing all the passwords. So the biggest pains in the butt for me were the Nest Protect smoke detectors. I actually had to take those off the ceiling, remove them from my Nest device list, and like rescan the QR codes and reset them up.
Okay, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Thankfully, like they're not on very high ceilings because I'm not a heights guy. So I just got up on a chair and took those down and redid them. That was the only big pain in the butt. Now, there's only one casualty in the house right now. And it kind of leads me to my next topic when we get there is my smart garage door opener will not connect to this new network. Really? I have tried so many different things, yes.
Oh, no.
So Bestie Gene sent an email into us.
He did.
And he mentioned that he recently bought a smart garage door opener because if you know me on any personal level, you know that I am very OCD about my garage door. If I leave the house, I usually have to lap the block after I leave to make sure that I closed it. And that was before I had my garage door opener replaced over the summer. When I had my garage door opener replaced over the summer, the company that did the installation, they sell like smart enabled openers, and I chose one of those models. And now I have an app on my phone that can tell me the status of my garage door. Mm-hmm. And in order for it to do that, right, it has to join your home Wi-Fi network. I never really had a problem with it. On my old Wi-Fi network, it seemed to have got a signal pretty decently. And it's a great little thing. But after I changed the SSID, there is a procedure in the app that you follow to say, hey, my network name changed. So I did that, and it could not find my network. It had me climb up and hit buttons. Like first it had me hit buttons on the keypad, then it had me hit buttons on the actual opener itself, and now it won't connect to any Wi-Fi network at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there. I'm in one of those situations where like I've tried everything. Like I've tried hard resetting. Like I've repaired the keypads and the fobs and everything. Like I don't know if it's not compatible with whatever band of network this is running on, but it will not connect. So I have to figure that out. So I am currently without a smart garage door opener. I have to use the keypad like an animal.
Like an animal.
Yeah, so my car still works. The little like openers that they give you still work. And the keypad still works, but the app does not work.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and it is really unfortunate because I love the peace of mind to say, boy, did I close the garage door, and I just fire up the app and boom, it's right there. It shows me.
Yeah, I've been looking at that the particular product that Bestie Gene sent us. I'll put a link in the show notes so we can include that. Because I've been thinking about getting I don't have quite the anxiety of that, but sometimes it's just nice to know that, your garage door is closed. Like, you have that thought into your head, hey, did I close it? And I can look on an app and think, yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, so interestingly enough here, right, there's a couple nice things about having this. And the one thing I will say is this, is that the company that makes my garage door opener is not the same company that makes the device that Gene sent us a link for. However, that whole MyQ brand is apparently used in a lot of different openers. So the app you would use for that opener is the same app I would use for my opener. So interesting. It's very interesting that it's kind of one company that has that on lockdown. And it's Lady in the Tube enabled, which one of the things that Gene asked a question about is, there's this whole Amazon key thing that you can do.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what that is, basically the premise is if you're an Amazon Prime customer and you're addicted to Amazon like I am, and you get lots of packages, well, a lot of times Amazon Prime, Amazon delivers a lot of their own packages now. Occasionally I still get some with UPS or FedEx, but like 90% of them are delivered by Amazon employees or contractors. The idea with Amazon Key is you have some sort of device that is Lady in the Tube enabled, and your delivery person can unlock your door or open your garage door and place your package inside of your house and then close the door behind them, right? That's the big premise here, is that they can actually get into your house. How do you feel about that, Drew?
I'm conflicted. First of all, so what I find interesting is, so we have the Ring doorbell, and as part of that Ring subscription, you can get neighborhood crime reports, and it seems like with this holiday season in particular, there was a lot of package theft in my area.
That's too bad.
Now, I work at home, so usually I'm home to receive any packages that arrive. But with all the traveling I was doing in the month of December and the number of packages we had delivered, it was concerning. Let's put it that way. If I look at the crime map in my area of thefts from porch this year, it was pretty high. It was in the double digits, I think, in my general zip code. So with the premise of Amazon Key, I like it in the fact that it's a more secure location for these people to put the packages, but these aren't UPS or USPS or FedEx people. These are Amazon contractors.
Yes.
Right? So, and nothing against that. If you're an Amazon contractor and you're listening to the show, I'm sure you're wonderful and you would never steal anything. But I don't know. I am a little bit weird about giving out access to my house, because part of that is if I was going to do that, I would probably lock the door from my garage to my house, which I typically don't do. So that way, there's a little bit of an interlock there, right? So if they took something, the only thing at risk really is whatever in my garage at the time they drop off the package. So
they could steal your cordless power drill.
They could steal that cordless drill or my cordless reciprocating saw.
Yeah.
Or a lot of my hockey stuff's in the garage. There's not really anything of tremendous value in my garage, but my point still stands. I would not want to do that. I would not want to do that if I didn't have a better way to secure entryway to my house. You know what I mean? I would never do it for my front door. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would feel the same way. I think I would consider doing it if they could open up the garage door and set it inside the garage. But my front door to my house, I know nothing's probably going to happen and everything's recorded and, there's a log of them coming into my house and stuff. And I could put a camera on there to make sure they don't do something stupid, but it feels wrong. It's a lot of trust letting a stranger into your house. And
it really is.
Yeah.
It is a lot of trust to do that.
It's a lot of trust even when you're home to let someone you don't know into your house.
Yes.
Let alone when you're gone. Well. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not on board with that. I'm not on board with that. I guess a long way of saying I'm not on board with that. If I'm not here, I'll take my chances of them leaving it on the porch. But then again, I don't normally order anything super expensive. Now, if I was ordering a new Mac Pro or something that was thousands of dollars and I knew I wasn't going to be home, then maybe that equation changes a little bit.
Yeah, even then, in my head, if I'm worried about that package, I would just have it delivered. A lot of places you order from, you can go pick it up somewhere and not have it delivered at all. It's you could do the Amazon lockers, or if you're doing something from Apple, you can have it delivered to the Apple store. Right. A lot of the other retailers do the same thing. And I think if I was really worried about something being stolen, I would just do that. It'd be a little bit more of an inconvenience for me, but the peace of mind of knowing that it's not going to be stolen is worth it, I think.
Yep. I would agree with that too. So long story short, I really like the smart garage door opener devices. I don't have any smart locks in the house. I don't know if you do.
Yeah. Recently, we put in a smart lock into the house. And it's nice. It does chew through batteries a little faster than I would expect because there's no way for it to charge because it's literally in your door. So it just runs on some AA batteries. But it is nice. I particularly enjoy it on the occasions where I go to concerts. I don't have to generally speaking, if I leave the house, I still have a key to my front door just in case something stupid happens or the battery dies or I don't know, the software fails or I don't know, solar rays. But when I go to a concert, I like to have as little things in my pocket as possible.
Right.
And it is nice knowing that I don't have to have that house key when I go out in certain situations.
Yeah, so two things. One, I don't have any smart locks in my house, just because, and it's gonna sound a little hypocritical to say this, but even though I have a smart garage door opener, I don't really trust the smart locks. I've watched enough of the lockpicking lawyer on YouTube to know what makes up a good lock, and I don't think he's ever favorably reviewed a smart lock yet.
Yeah. Then again, like, I know just enough with lock picking to know that, like, locks really just keep honest people honest, and they slow people down, right? I mean, end of the day, if they went into your house, they'd just break a window or take a sledgehammer to your door frame, right? Like, it's not going to stop anyone who really wants to get into your house.
Have you ever watched any of those videos? By the way?
Religiously.
Yeah, they're really good. If you're not following or watching the lockpicking lawyer on YouTube, a lot of good videos. It's very eye opening what consumer locks, how terrible they are, basically.
And I personally love just his matter of fact tone. Like, regardless of what he's doing, he kind of just has the same demeanor, and it's kind of like, I think he's honestly just happy to be picking locks on YouTube. Like,
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, they're very well done, very well lit. He gets a new lock, he usually tears it apart so you can see what's going on in there, and yeah, it's a good set of videos.
Yeah, no, quite good. Yeah, but anyway, I don't have any smart locks for that reason. As a matter of fact, like, we've got 2 locks on the front door, we've got a couple locks and like a security bar on our sliding door, and some pretty good window locks too. But like, the main way we get in and out of our house is our garage door. So we either use the pad or our garage door openers in our car to get into the house. And up until recently, the app. But even then, like, my in-laws and my parents and like some close friends and stuff know my garage door code if they need to get into the house. But like, by and large, that's how we get in and out of the house. So like, 1, I don't feel like I need to get one right now. And 2, like, I don't know. I just don't trust them. But I just kind of keep it simple with the garage door. But if I don't have power, it's really hard for me to get in my house because I usually don't carry a house key with me.
Got it.
Yeah. Which has happened.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, even with the smart lock, except for a few situations, I still don't feel comfortable. At least someone has the house key with them, so if my wife doesn't take it, I usually have mine, so I could come home and let her in. Yeah, even though like it has been flawless, it's still that. Yeah, I guess I don't 100% trust it either. It's a nice convenience, but I still like having that key in my pocket.
Yeah, I haven't carried a key in quite some time. I carry my. Okay, that's not true. I need to take that back. I carry my key fob for my car, and on my key fob for my car is the key to my P.O. box. So those are the only 2 keys, even though one isn't necessarily a key right now. Those are the only 2 keys I carry. Yeah, that's disappointing that that lock chews through batteries.
Honestly, it's not too bad. It's a little. I mean, they last a couple of months. When we had a recent cold spell, it went through them a little faster. I bought some of those lithium AA's. Try those. So the next time it dies, I'm going to put some of those in there. I think the biggest thing is just the cold. Like, those batteries, like, even though it's on the door and my house is, heated, doors really, especially door locks, they're not insulated, right? So that light mechanism still gets cold, and those batteries are still exposed to, colder temperatures than they normally would get. And so I'm hoping the lithium ones work better because they can tolerate colder temperatures. So
yeah, and that's what we used on the HASP, by the way, for the APRS transmitter. We actually bought some of those really expensive like lithium AA's, and that kept that alive. So
you sure did.
Ringing endorsement there. Okay. Yeah, man, that's a lot of follow up. What else? Was there anything else we needed to bring back to the show before we move on?
I don't think so. I think that covers everything.
Oh, a couple. Actually, I got one more.
Ooh.
So of all the Christmas presents you may have received, which one's your favorite so far?
Oh, well, I'm really enjoying owning a battle jacket to be, even though I haven't got a lot of, that could be what I do next week is focus a lot of time on the battle jacket and get those sleeves off and stuff like that. So that was a really nice touch. And I've been watching, in fact, I finished it up today, The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. And if you haven't been living under a rock, one of the characters is affectionately known as Baby Yoda. And that puppet is so darn cute and is really one of the highlights of the show. So my daughter bought me a Mandalorian t-shirt that features Baby Yoda, and I'm really excited to wear it in public.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a really good gift.
Yes.
That is a exceptionally good gift. Way to go, Arabelle.
Yep.
Nice job.
Yep. What about you? What was your favorite Christmas present?
I got a lot of really good presents, so it's really hard to pick. Let's see. So I'm in the process of building. So my in-laws got me a Saturn V Lego kit.
I'm a little jealous. Yeah.
Which I'm in the process of building. I might actually go build a little bit more of that before bed because it's super relaxing. So I got that, and that's really cool. Oh, my wife got me. Are you familiar? Are you a big I know you're a big comic book person, but have you ever read the Battle Angel Alita series?
I have not.
So she got me the the big collector's edition, big 5-volume set of books, and it's basically got all the main story arcs in one thing. And I'm not a big anime or manga person at all. I think the closest I ever really got into that is I have all the Scott Pilgrims. So these are definitely mangas or mangas or however you're supposed to say that. It's a really cool story. It's very cyberpunk. It's really cool. It's very well done. Great story so far. I just finished book 1 today. Took me about 3 or 4 days to kind of read through it here and there. But it's really good. And that's a really cool gift. Trying to think what else. There was something else that I got that I really liked too. Oh, my Tom bin bag. That's probably my best gift.
Yes.
So I got a Tom bin bag for Christmas as well, and that is amazing.
Which bag did you end up getting?
I got the Synapse 25.
Nice.
Yeah, I went with black with the blue inside. What do you have the orange, right?
I do have the orange.
Yeah, I thought about the orange, but I didn't want to have what you had, so I got black.
Yeah.
So again, I took an afternoon and I got everything organized in there. I absolutely am going to have to order a cache.
Yeah, I have 2 of them now. I have one for my MacBook and one for my iPad. Yeah. And they are very nice.
There is a big pocket in there, but it doesn't hold the laptop firm enough.
Yeah. It's bigger than. I don't like a space that's too big for the laptop. Because it kind of just bounces around in there. And it is a big enough pocket that I could throw something else in there as well. And it's nice having just some protection and stability around your, expensive MacBook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I need to invest in one of those, which I forgot to do. I was going to try to do that and have it ready for next week, but I'll have to get that taken care of.
Now,
they don't sell those on...
Yeah.
They don't sell those on Amazon, do they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I've got quite a few Amazon gift cards to burn through.
I also recommend the Snake Charmer bag. It's a bag for all of your cables, and if you buy the large one, it fits perfectly in that bottom pouch in your bag, which is a nice place to keep all of your cables and your chargers if you need them. Yeah, if you need something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be on the list to do. So yeah, I gotta. That's to say that I'm really kind of blessed in the fact that I got a lot of good gifts this year. So I'm very very thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know we've been at this for 45 minutes already. Darn.
45 minutes.
Yeah. So I know that we've talked about this a little bit, and with 2019 coming to a close, we obviously are thankful for a lot this year. One of the things that I think you've wanted to talk about a little bit is your son Zach. So yes. I'll let you kind of tee this up. You talk about what your kind of what you're comfortable talking about, and I'll ask questions at the end.
Yeah. Or ask questions as I go through them. Yeah. And I talked to my son. He gave me full approval to tell the story because it's really his story. And I talked about this briefly, I think in the last show, that we recently celebrated my son's 10-year anniversary of his liver transplant. He is now 13 and a half. So if you do the math, he got his transplant when he was 3 and a half. And obviously this happened 10 years ago, so I may not get all of the details 100% right. But in broad strokes, this is pretty much, his story of what happened. When he was born, he was a sick little dude. He was always, in and out of the hospital, and it kind of followed this pattern where he would get something like an ear infection or strep throat or pink eye, some other kind of just benign, normal childhood illness. But instead of getting better, he wouldn't, and it would end up that his liver would shut down. And he was in and out of the hospital because of this. They always would run a whole bunch of tests. Nothing ever came conclusive. They would treat the symptoms. One of the biggest things they were always worried about is your liver produces factors in your blood that contribute to blood clotting. So they're always worried that, he's a little guy just crawling around. If he would fall out of his crib or hit his head, he could have, some sort of, blood vessel in his brain break and have bleeding on his brain. And that was their primary concern. They would just basically treat the symptoms, run a bunch of tests. He would get better. And then we would go home. And this happened. It really, honestly, really became routine. I remember the time he went to the hospital that ended up being, the incident. I was staying home with him. He looked a little off. I literally just texted my wife, who was at work, saying, hey, Zach looks off. I'm going to take him into the hospital. And she's like, okay, I'm going to finish my day at work. I'll go home. I'll pack a bag, and then we'll switch out that evening. There was no panic. There was no worry. It was just I'm going to take him to the hospital. She'll meet me there later. But unlike the other times, he wasn't getting better. In fact, he was getting bad real fast. The ammonia levels were rising in his blood. He was becoming jaundiced. So obviously we live close to Columbus, Ohio. And so we're at Columbus Nationwide Children's Hospital. So at that point, they're like, well, we're going to transfer him to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So I've come to learn that, there's 3 big major cities in Ohio. There's Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. And all 3 of those have children's hospitals, and they're all great hospitals. What they have decided to do is each one kind of has a specialty, so they don't have to compete for doctors. So if you have something brain related, you're probably going to Cleveland. If it's heart or lungs, you're going to Columbus. And if it's GI related, like livers and kidneys, they're going to send you to Cincinnati. So we rode in an ambulance down to Cincinnati, and he was admitted into Cincinnati's ICU. And so I don't know how many people are familiar with hospitals or had kind of been in a hospital or have had loved ones in a hospital, but my biggest difference between being admitted into the hospital and being admitted into the ICU, when you're in the hospital, you have nurses, but they kind of play a zone defense, right? The nurse may have multiple patients that they're working on, or they kind of work together. When you're in the ICU, you have a nurse, and that you are her only patient, or him, gender normative, bad Paul. You are his or her only patient. So the nurse gives you in fact, intensive care. So this was right around Christmas, about 10 years ago. So, it's in the winter. They started him on a process called plasmapheresis. because of the ammonia levels in his blood. And basically what that entailed is they stuck him full of tubes in his groin, actually, big stinking tubes, and they take all of the blood out, remove the plasma, and replace the plasma, just trying to get, some of the toxins out of his blood. But they pretty quickly, when we got there, realized that the only real course of action that would save his life would be a liver transplant. So they put him on the transplant list. Now, obviously, there's not enough organs to go around for everybody. This is the part where I say, if you're not an organ donor, please go to donatelife.org and register. Lots of good information about the process and how it works. But essentially, there are levels, and it's basically a combination of how desperately the person needs the transplant, how confident the doctors are that the transplant is going to have a noticeable change in this person's life. And the doctors were like, well, if he doesn't get it, he's probably going to die. And they felt really, really confident that the organ would, like, if he got this transplant, he'd probably be a relatively normal kid. So he was at the highest tier on the transplant list. So the morning of the 21st of December 21st, 10 years ago, so 2009, the doctors in Cincinnati, they're spectacular. They were doing their morning rounds, and we had kind of heard that there was a potential donor. We don't know much about him except that he was probably an middle-aged to older gentleman. I believe he was actually located in Kentucky, and what they were concerned about was the liver. The donor, his liver was a little fatty, so there was lots of large fat cells, which really kind of don't go away in the liver. And the more of those a liver has, it's a very technical term. It's called like primary non-function. It's the risk of when they put the organ inside of my son, it wouldn't work. So I remember very clearly like this circle. It felt like a stand-up at work. It was literally a circle of doctors. They had the transplant surgeons. They had the head of the GI department. They had the ICU doctor. They had nurses. And the doctors were basically discussing the pros and cons of whether or not we would want to take this organ. When we left that morning, they actually had decided not to go through with it, that the chance of primary non-function was too high because of the number of large fat cells in the liver. Well, so we kind of went the whole day, and basically one of the doctors was like, well, I mean, to be kind of grim, it's the holidays. There's a lot more auto accidents. The chances of him getting another donor are higher. So he felt pretty safe not taking the organ. So like kind of in that evening, we kind of went through the whole day, and then suddenly, like everybody on the floor, his nurse, other nurses kind of started getting really busy and preparing stuff and checking things. And so we kind of like felt like, hey, this is really weird. So we kind of grabbed one of the nurses and we're like, hey, like what's going on? And she's like, well, I guess the transplant is back on. So unbeknownst to us, the head of the GI department at Cincinnati actually sent one of his surgeons, I guess flew him out to basically run his own set of tests on the liver. And when the surgeon did his own examination, like took a biopsy, looked at the number of cells, he determined that the liver was nowhere near in as bad of shape as we had feared. And they decided right there that they were going to take the organ, take the donation, and do the surgery that night. So they had a set of doctors recovering the donated organ. They had a set of doctors with Zach starting to go through removing the old organ, getting him ready. We had some friends that drive down to kind of, stay with us during the whole ordeal. And on December 21st, 2009, the surgery went spectacular. And he started getting better. And he had a long road to recovery. He was out of it for quite a period of time, and he had to go through physical therapy, lots and lots and lots of tests. Obviously, getting at someone else's, organ is an ordeal. It was an adult donor, so they took one lobe of the liver. So if you know anything about human anatomy, the liver is made up of multiple pieces. They took the larger piece. And from how I was explained to it by the doctors, for small kids in that age, they actually prefer an adult donor because they can kind of take extra like blood vessels and ducts around the organ and kind of like they have more to work with, so it's easier for them to like sew the larger pieces onto this larger blood vessels onto its smaller ones. Another thing that I'll point out here is the Cincinnati Ronald McDonald House was amazing. While he was still in the hospital, they offered my wife Jennifer and I a room with the one condition that we would just use it. So we had a place for us to get, free hot meals, showers, a bed, a place to do laundry. So we basically took turns every night. One of us would stay with Zachary and one of us would get a good night's sleep at the Ronald McDonald House. Also, like around this time, my daughter Arabelle was literally 9 months old. So we were in the hospital for 3 months from beginning to end. So we basically pawned my daughter off onto my wife's sister for that period of time. After Zach was released from the hospital, they wanted him to stay close because he had lots of doctor's visits in case anything would go sideways. So we actually stayed at the Ronald McDonald House with him for, I think, 3 weeks, maybe a month. And it was at that time that my daughter actually got to come back and live with us again. And outside of a few like bumps along the way, he's been relatively healthy. He does have to take an immunosuppressant every day. Just like a virus or a splinter, the immune system wants to attack his liver. It's not his, right? So his immune system's constantly trying to attack it. As it was explained to me, the immunosuppressants doesn't make his immune system drunk. It makes it tipsy. So it's less inclined to attack the liver. Luckily, the liver also regenerates, so you can survive on a smaller amount of immunosuppressant. There's more room for error, unlike there would be for like a kidney or a heart, right? If those organs receive any kind of damage, they're permanently damaged, whereas the liver will eventually heal. He has had some cases of rejection, where basically the immune system kind of springs up and starts attacking the liver vigorously, which makes him sick, which puts him in the hospital, which means immunosuppressants get increased. And his last round of that, the end result was, we're not 100% positive, but we believe that the increased amount of like steroids and immunosuppressants he was on during his case of rejection ended up with him having lymphoma. Luckily we caught that cancer super early. He literally goes every year for like a big test where they do a bunch of like ultrasounds and blood work, and we meet with all the doctors. and they found the mass in his lymph nodes during one of those ultrasounds, and he went through a round of chemotherapy and came out the other side completely healthy. Like if you didn't know, you wouldn't know he was sick as a kid or has a transplant. Obviously he has a huge scar in his belly, but other than that, like, the last 10 years have been just amazing. The liver really did save his life. And like every year on the 21st, we do what we can to celebrate because, if it wasn't for that liver, he wouldn't have made it. He would have. Yeah. Well, whew. Oh, that got me there.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it would. When I first met you, I had no idea that your son had a liver transplant, and I've known you now for, I don't know, 7 years.
Yeah.
Getting up there. So I had never known that. And I first learned about that, back when we were doing our like day of service stuff. You had mentioned that, you were a big fan of the Ronald McDonald House, and I had no idea as to why that was. And it was through you that I learned about all the great works of the Ronald McDonald House. So we'll have to put a link to that in the show notes. The other thing I wanted to mention here, when you talked about his immunosuppressant stuff, you're obviously a big proponent of vaccinations for that reason, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So
talk a little bit about that and why the whole anti-vax thing is especially kind of insulting to you.
Yeah. Well, so there are two main big types of vaccinations. There are inert, where basically they're putting in either like dead viruses or other types of matter that produce the same immune response in your body. And there's also living vaccines where they put in a little bit of the virus in you to get your immune system to spring up. A couple examples, like a very common inert vaccine is your flu shot. Perfectly safe to get every year. Ones that have, or like living, would be like your chicken pox and like your measles MMR vaccine. So him obviously being 3.5 when this happened, he was literally in the process of getting his full set of adult vaccinations. Because of the immunosuppressants, they decided that he should not receive any more living vaccines, like his second round of chicken pox, his boosters for like his MMR, and so on. Because there's always a chance, albeit very, very, very small, but they could give him the chicken pox vaccine. And because his immune system is in a weakened state, he can get the chicken pox. And because his immune system needs to be kept suppressed, any kind of major illness like that, like measles or chicken pox, would literally put him in a hospital. And I think for chicken pox, they actually have antivirals, but for measles, they basically have to watch him and hope he lives through it. Right. So it's always this battle between giving his immune system the best chance to fight off the virus, but not also destroy his liver or have him require like another transplant because him going through rejection. So Zachary relies on herd immunity to not get diseases like chicken pox or the measles. And that's basically the notion that, if most of the people in a society are vaccinated, chances are that that virus won't take hold and spread. So this whole like anti-vaxxer kind of anti-science movement that happens really puts kids like my son and others in that situation at risk. Because, obviously if their kids aren't vaccinated, they have a higher chance of getting chicken pox and measles and then spreading that to somebody who eventually spreads it to, Zachary or someone like him, right? There's literally thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, I would imagine, who have some sort of they're immunocompromised, right? Whether it's a disease or genetics, or they're taking immunosuppressant because they received an organ transplant. So obviously we're very big on vaccines. Actually, one of the great things about Cincinnati Children's is they're on the cutting edge of like science and research. And they're actually talking, they've actually done some studies about giving kids, those who've received or liver transplants, their chickenpox and MMR vaccine. So it's currently a discussion we are having, which I believe has become more important because the number of anti-vaxxers in the world is increasing at an alarming rate. That's one of those things where I'm not going to have an argument or a disagreement with anybody. If I know someone who is an anti-vaxxer, they're just not going to be part of my life. Like, we're just like, well, that's cute. I'll never talk to you again. Because I just don't want to take that risk or, yeah. Yeah, so get your vaccines. Get your flu shot every year. It's good for you. The flu kills people. Yeah. Get your flu shot.
Yeah, I'm not a big flu shot person, but I might start. It's, again, one of those things of getting old. I might need to start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year's flu isn't as bad, but yeah, since 2010, there have been 61,000 deaths attributed to the flu. Yeah, so it's one of those things where, you literally go and you spend a few bucks and then you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, so vaccines they're good for you. You should get them. And like people like my son depend on people like you being up to date on their vaccines and getting their kids their vaccines because he can't get them all.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, so I guess, that's a pretty incredible story. And, if you feel the need to help out, like I said, we'll put some show notes to things about like organ donation and the Ronald McDonald House and everything in the show notes. But, I guess how does Zach feel about all this? Like, does he talk about it a lot, or is it just one of those things where he tries not to think about it? Or
his earliest memories are post the transplant, right? So this has literally been his life since he's known. Like sometimes he'll get sick and he'll be down a little bit longer than a normal kid would from like, a cold or an earache. It's just part of his life. Like he has to go, and like when he first got out of the hospital, he was getting labs like every couple of weeks or every month. Now it's down to like 4 times a year we has to go and get labs. He doesn't bring it up that much. Like some of his closest friends know. Obviously, a lot of the kids in school know because he missed a big chunk of time of school because he was home. When he was going through his chemotherapy from his cancer, he was home for a long period of time and couldn't go to school. But he's one of the toughest people I know. He doesn't complain. He just kind of gets through the bumps that we've had. And like the same thing goes for my wife. She is an extremely strong individual. And, when we were in Cincinnati dealing with all of this and he's had his bumps on the road, like, man, she's a strong individual, regardless all the time, 24/7. But when something's wrong with Zach, like she kicks it into a whole nother gear, and like, it's just like stay out of her way because she's just going to take care of him. So she's been great through all of this as well. I'm also exceptionally lucky that she's also a, trained educator. So when he was missing all this school and, was a little bit behind in his development when he was young, like she just stepped in and took care of all of that. When he misses school, she's on top of it, making sure that he understands the lessons and is keeping up with his, homework and his schoolwork. And like, just like little things, like I don't like blood. I don't like needles. Like if I have to ever give blood or, do labs, like I can't look at it. It makes me even queasy thinking about it right now. But that kid, man, he he goes and sits down, he rolls up his sleeve, and he tells the nurse, like, well, you're either going to want like this vein, you're going to want this one. And he watches the whole thing, and he's just a champ. And like even little things, like recently, like we're putting him in charge of remembering to take his medicine. Obviously, as parents, we go, hey, did you take your medicine? Or remember to take your medicine. But, you know, he's responsible for getting up and making sure he's taking the right things in the morning and in the evening. Because at some point, he's going to have to do it by himself. Like, he's not always going to be in our house. And he needs to understand that, like, yeah, these medicine that he takes, if he misses, like, you can't just miss one. It's not good. I mean, it's just, that's been his life. He's never known, doesn't remember his life before the transplant. So it's just something he has to deal with. But I think the whole thing just kind of made him stronger because I think he just had to be. Like, it's a lot to ask, you know, a kid, or even like now he's 13 and a half years old. He's a teenager. It's a lot to ask of somebody, but he just gets through, man. He just does it.
Yeah, I'm not a needle person either. The joke I always make about that is like, I can get a shot all day, but like if I have to take my dog to the vet, like, and they have to give him a shot, like I have to leave the room because I can't handle watching other things get shots, other people, other dogs.
Yeah, we recently had a cat who she recently passed, but at the end of her life, she was having some kidney problems. So she constantly had to go into the vet to get like fluids. And usually my wife would take her. But a few times I would have to take her as well. And like, you know, it's a vet. Like, generally speaking, we get a technician to give the fluids. And the person who brings her is assume that they're going to help hold her. Because even though she was older, you know, cats don't like being stuck with needles. And they can be pretty strong. So like I'm literally holding this, you know, small cat in my hands while I'm like I'm like looking up away into the corner of the room, trying not to think about what's going on, because if I look down at the cat with the needle in, I'd probably would just, you know, crumple into the floor and pass out.
Man, that's a lot, man. I give you all the credit in the world. That's a heck of a thing to go through, and I'm glad that, you know, everything is good. And
yeah, you know, and you get a lot of parents of, you know, kids, and they go, can't imagine what that was like or how you got through it. But like, honestly, like when your kid is in the hospital, like you just figure it out. You just find a way to get through it. Like you kind of just tamp the emotions down. You just get through. Like a lot of times, especially like the long time when we were in the hospital, like Jennifer, she cared for his emotional needs and all of that, you know. I mean, I say touchy-feely, but I don't mean it. It was extremely important. And I would talk to the doctors, and like literally when he got his transplant, like a lot of people who get transplants, they've been waiting for a long time, right? They've been building up to it. They know all of the facts. And we got a crash course, right? From the time I think he was only on the transplant list, maybe 3 days, maybe 2.5. It was quick. And like literally it was like, okay, here is just gigantic binder of all the medicines he's going to be on, what they do, what the side effects are, things you have to look for. You know, when the fever is this, give us a call. If the fever is this, bring him in. Like all of these rules. Oh, and by the way, you have to memorize all this before we let you take him home. And yes, there will be a test.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's Jennifer would sit at his bed and read him books when he was coming, like, you know, coming to and coming out of his, like, it wasn't quite a coma, but he was like comatose when he was starting to come out. And I would just go through this binder and study and, you know, so we kind of split the duties in that way. And obviously, like, a shout out to, you know, where I work, because they were super supportive through all of Zach's ups and downs. And, you know, when he was, you know, when he went to Cincinnati, he was in the hospital for a long time. They were pretty much like, yeah, like the place you need to be is not at work. You need to be with him. don't worry about it. If, you want to work remote, if you need to get your mind off of it, you want to work, a few hours a week, that's great. We'll give you stuff to do. But like, don't even think about coming into the office. Like, just get out, leave. Which, I like to think that every employer would be that nice, but I know that's not the case. Like, they would make you like go on leave and fill out a bunch of paperwork and stuff. And, I've never had that. It's always been, do whatever you need to do and we'll figure out the rest later. Yeah. So like, I'll say it again. Like, I'll put a link in the show notes, but if you go to Donate Life America's website, which is actually donatelife.net, not .org. I was wrong. Donatelife.net. You can register to become an organ donor. They have a lot of good material if you're curious about how it works, or organ donation is actually compatible with all major religions. So they have information about that and how, if you have questions on along that nature. So, I would urge anybody to, become an organ donor. I was actually briefly a Donate Life ambassador. So I went through a whole bunch of training. So if you have any questions and you want to reach out to me directly, I'd be glad to, answer those for you. But it's a great organization. It's a great charity. And also, the Ronald McDonald House. Like, they literally opened their doors for us. They didn't ask for a dime. It was just, here's a room for you and your family to heal and get better while you're away from home. And I can't imagine what the ordeal would have been like without them. Just a truly amazing charity. Like, literally, like, the simple things, like a place to wash your clothes, a place to get away. Like, when you're in the hospital room, it's just there's constant commotion. There's beeping. There's monitors. People in the hallway. Like, it's hard to be in that environment 24 hours a day. Just a place to kind of get away and just, have a peace and quiet and get a hot meal, or get a snack, take a shower, have some privacy. It's an amazing charity. It's one of the ones that I always make sure that I get a donation to every year. And I urge, like, hey, if you're like me and you're painfully middle class and you're looking for a good charity to donate to, you could do a lot worse than the Ronald McDonald House.
That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's after hearing you talk about that, I've gone out of my way to try to volunteer there. I've tried to donate some money there. So yeah, it's different. I'm sure it's different just as if you've gone through it. It also changes your perspective when me knowing you and what you've gone through, like that changes my perspective as well. So
yeah, and that's kind of the reason why I like telling this story. It really is a success story. End of the day, like. The system worked, right? Someone had decided to become an organ donor, and while I know that like their family had, like for them, December 21st is the day that a loved one died, but they had made that decision to become an organ donor, and that person's decision literally saved my son's life. Like there is no if ands or buts about it. So it's a really powerful decision, and like, just, when you're getting your driver's license, really just saying yes to that simple question of, do you want to be an organ donor? And then also, telling your family about that decision so they can support you, if that time ever arises. But, I mean, you really can change someone else's life. And like Zachary is proof of that. So it's a hopeful story. It's a positive story. And that's why I like talking about it, and that's why I wanted to share it with our wonderful besties.
Yeah, no, it's a great story, and I thank you for sharing it. And I know listening. That you. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that you've talked to me about it, but I think it's also good to kind of just talk about that stuff openly. And I thank Zach for letting you talk about it, because he should definitely. Yep. I think it's cool that you checked with him on that.
I sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very cool. Oh, man. well, it's getting to be the end of the year, Paul, and it's getting to be the end of the weekly podcast. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. So where can people find us?
Yeah, we are on the internet at doingtheirbest.com. You can reach the show on Twitter at doingbestpod. You can send us an email at contact@doingtheirbest.com. And you can find me personally on Twitter at Paul Baylor. That's BAHLER. And where can we find you, Drew?
You can find me at Pittsburgh at PITTFURG. That's where people can find me.
Awesome.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for listening. I don't think we'll get a chance to record another one before the end of the year. Before the end of the year. So
maybe
thanks
next year.
Everybody, thanks for listening for 2019. We got some good stuff coming in 2020. And we'll try to kick off the next one talking about things we liked and didn't like from 2019.
I think it's a great topic.
Sweet. All right, everybody. Have a good one.
Yep.